They called it the Violet Massacre, the day 37 human colonies were wiped out in a synchronized sweep across the Perseus Arm. No warnings, no negotiations, no last words, just silence, then fire. The alien coalition known as the Keth Dominion claimed it was a necessary corrective measure against humanity's expansion. To the galaxy, it was another tragic chapter in interstellar politics. To Earth, it was an unforgivable wound. For centuries, humans had played by the rules, treaties, diplomacy, civilized warfare. Every concession, every compromise, every strategic restraint, done in the name of being accepted by the elder races. But the massacre changed everything. Earth's official answer, broadcast across every known system, was simple, cold, and final. No more civilized battles. That message traveled farther and hit harder than any weapon humanity had ever built. Worlds trembled. Empires stalled. The Keth Dominion laughed, right until the day the first human retaliation strike shattered their pride. Commander Aric Hale, leader of Task Force Dauntless, stood on the bridge of the USN Resolute as it slipped out of FTL like a ghost emerging from a dream. His jaw was set, his eyes were hollow but burning with controlled fury. Around him, his crew remained silent, focused, breathing in perfect sync. Everyone on that ship had lost someone, family, friends, entire hometowns. The massacre united them in a way no flag ever could. "Target world, Keth Prime's forward weapons foundry," said Lieutenant Mara Vesic, her voice crisp. "Their orbital shields are fluctuating. Perfect timing." Aric nodded slowly. "They thought we wouldn't respond because we're too young a species." He exhaled, a quiet promise hiding beneath the breath. "Today we teach them what humans become when pushed." The strike was surgical. No civilians, no unnecessary fire. Only the war factories that had forged the weapons used against Earth's colonies. The Dominion expected chaos and rage. Instead, humanity delivered precision and purpose. The foundry exploded in a silent blossom of blue, the heat so intense it distorted the starlight around it. "Lesson 1, Aric murmured, as alarms from Keth Prime began to echo across the comms. "We don't play by your rules anymore. We play by ours." But the story didn't end with one strike. It couldn't, because somewhere deep beneath the ruins of the foundry, a hidden chamber trembled open. Locked inside was a creature the Keth Dominion themselves feared, a being they swore they would never release again. Its eyes snapped awake, glowing like molten copper, as ancient restraints melted away. "Human signatures detected," it whispered in a language older than the Dominion itself. "How interesting, after all this time." On the Resolute, the sensors spiked violently. "Commander," Mara shouted, "something just activated below the impact zone, something huge, and it's scanning us." Aric's heart thudded once. "Put it on screen." The hologram flickered, revealing a towering silhouette rising from smoke and metal. 8 glowing eyes, armor like obsidian plates, limbs that bent in ways no living thing should. And beneath its monstrous form, a symbol, etched and blazing, matching one from humanity's earliest archaeological records. "How can that be?" Mara whispered. "That emblem, it appeared on the ruins of Cydonia, on ancient Earth." Aric froze, because he knew that symbol too. Everyone in Earth's strategic command did. It belonged to a species believed extinct for 100,000 years, a species whose disappearance reshaped the power balance of the galaxy. And now, one of them was awake again. It tilted its head, studying the human ship with unsettling curiosity, then spoke directly into their comm system without any transmission signal. "Children of Terra, you have finally shed your chains. Tell me, are you ready for the war your ancestors once fled from?" The bridge went silent, except for the distant hum of the engines and the pounding of human hearts. Aric knew instantly the massacre had not been the beginning of a conflict. It had been the opening shot of something far older, something waiting, watching, testing. "Commander," Mara whispered, voice shaking for the first time. "What do we do?" Aric stared at the creature, at the smoldering ruins, at the stars that suddenly felt far more dangerous than they had yesterday. "First," he said, slowly, "we survive this." But deep in the void, beyond the reach of any star's light, other ancient signals were awakening, responding to the creature's call, echoing across forgotten systems. One by one, they were answering, and none of them sounded friendly. The Resolute's lights flickered as a wave of unknown energy washed across it, systems struggling to compensate. Aric gripped the railing as the view screen filled with symbols. Not Keth, not human, something older. "Commander," Mara said, breathless. "That thing, it's sending coordinates." Aric swallowed hard, heart pounding. Coordinates. To Earth. And then the coordinates pulsed on the view screen like a heartbeat, slow, deliberate, impossible to ignore. Each flicker filled the bridge with an eerie copper glow, as though the creature's eyes were staring directly into the ship's soul. Commander Aric Hale felt the weight of every life aboard pressing on his shoulders, yet his voice remained steady. "Trace the origin of the transmission," he ordered. Mara's fingers flew across her console, the holographic interface responding with nervous flickers. "It's coming directly from the entity. No relay, no network. It's bypassing every known communication protocol. Sir, it's speaking to our ship's core AI, like it already knows how it works." Aric's jaw tightened. How far are those coordinates from Sol? The answer came not from Mara, not from any crew member, but from the entity itself, its voice slithering across the bridge as though it rose from the floor and walls simultaneously. "Exactly one threshold away. A door you have not yet opened." Aric glared at the creature on the screen. "Why Earth? Why now?" A low rumble echoed from its chest, something between a chuckle and a growl. "Because the blood you carry is older than your world, and the war you believe began with the Keth did not begin with them at all." Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. Then Lieutenant Kira from Tactical broke it with a trembling voice. "Commander, we're detecting multiple FTL signatures, not Keth, unknown configuration." Her throat tightened. "They're arriving in system." Aric stepped forward. "Put it on main." The stars twisted as half a dozen vessels tore into real space. Their hulls were forged in spirals and crystalline arcs, glowing with inner light as if each ship was grown rather than built. They moved like predators, silent, elegant, terrifying. Mara whispered, "What are they?" Before anyone could analyze, one of the ships tilted and an energy lattice expanded outward like a web, locking on to the Keth Ancient. But the creature didn't flinch. Instead, it turned toward them, its 8 eyes narrowing. "They still hunt me," it murmured, "even after all these eras." The lattice tightened, compressing the air around the creature, distorting the landscape below. Aric watched in disbelief as the ground itself cracked from the pressure. "Sir," Kiera said urgently, "if that energy net collapses the terrain, it could trigger a cascade implosion. That entire region and possibly half the moon could be destroyed." Aric made his decision in an instant. "We intervene," he said. The bridge erupted in disbelief. Mara spun around. "Commander! Intervene how? Against them? We don't even know what they are." Aric lifted his chin. "We don't let unknown alien powers obliterate planets like toys. Not after the massacre. Not again. Not anywhere." His voice hardened. Cold steel wrapped in fire. "Humanity draws lines now, and this is one of them. A pulse of determination surged through the crew. They had lost too much to stand idle again. Aric pointed to the tactical display. Target the lattice projector nodes, low-yield disruptors only. We're not trying to destroy them, just break their hold. Aye, Commander, Kiera said, locking in coordinates. The Resolute dove forward, engines flaring, and released 3 shimmering disruptor bolts. They struck the lattice with surgical precision. The web shuddered, fracturing like ice beneath sudden heat. For the first time, the crystalline ships reacted. One tilted toward the Resolute, its hull brightening. A beam of pure white began to charge at its center. "Brace for impact!" Mara cried. But before the shot fired, the ancient creature moved, faster than physics should allow. It leapt upward, colliding with the white beam in mid-formation. The release detonated in a swirling vortex, scattering light like shattered diamonds. The shockwave rattled the Resolute, systems flickering. When the glare faded, the creature hovered in space, unsupported, unarmored, unaffected. "You interfere for me?" it asked, turning toward the human ship. There was no mockery in its voice now, only curiosity. "Why?" Aric stood firm. "Because slaughter is not justice." The creature's eyes studied him as though dissecting his soul. Then the crystalline ships changed formation. Rather than flee or attack, they aligned into a perfect sphere around the creature. The central vessel emitted a deep resonance. A voice, clear, ancient, weary, filled every speaker aboard the Resolute. "Children of Terra, remove yourselves from this conflict. The one you defend is a Harbinger, a destroyer. Its release marks the beginning of the returning war." Mara's fingers trembled. "Commander, this aligns with some of the symbols we uncovered on Titan Station, the old myths, the war that supposedly erased half the early galaxy." Aric's pulse pounded in his ears. "Explain," she said. "The Harbingers, a race of living weapons created by a long-extinct civilization. They rebelled. Everything burned." The creature hissed softly. "They fear the past because they misunderstand it." The crystalline voice replied, sharper now. "We misunderstand nothing. Harbinger, you are bound to a destiny of ruin. You must be contained." The creature turned toward the Resolute, and for the first time its voice carried something like urgency. "Commander Hale, the coordinates I sent you lead to the truth of your origin. If they reach Earth first, they will erase everything you are." Aric felt the bridge tighten with fear. Mara whispered, "Sir, what do we do now?" Aric looked at the crystalline armada, at the Harbinger, at the stars that suddenly held secrets older than time. "We protect Earth," he said. The Harbinger's 8 eyes brightened. "Then you must choose my freedom or their continued peace." The crystalline fleet's resonance deepened. "Terra, this is your final warning. Stand aside." The Harbinger extended a clawed, obsidian hand toward the human ship, as though offering partnership or damnation. Aric's heart hammered. Humanity stood between 2 titans of ancient war. Either choice could doom them. Either choice could save them. And the countdown to their decision had already begun.
The bridge of the Resolute pulsed with warning lights, but no alarm was louder than the silence that filled its crew. Every eye was locked on Commander Aric Hale as he stood between 2 impossible choices. Ally with an ancient creature feared by civilizations older than written memory, or submit to a crystalline fleet that promised peace through eradication. The fate of Earth balanced on the edge of a knife sharpened by time itself. Aric felt the weight of billions pressing on his lungs, but he didn't flinch. He looked at Mara, at Kiera, at the crew who had followed him through loss and fire. Humans weren't built to kneel before threats, no matter how ancient. Humanity had survived ice ages, wars, extinctions, and empires trying to cage them. They would survive this, too. Aric stepped closer to the view screen and spoke with a calmness that surprised even himself. Before humanity makes any choice, I want answers. Real ones. The crystalline sphere pulsed like a star inhaling. Its voice resonated through the bridge. Terra, your species carries fragments of an ancient genetic design. The Harbingers were your predecessors. You are their inheritors. If this one is freed, that legacy reawakens, and the galaxy burns again. The Harbinger's 8 eyes glowed like superheated metal. Lies told by cowards. I was created to protect, not destroy. My makers perished by their own arrogance, not by my hand. And these so-called guardians, they butcher worlds that question their rule. A tremor rolled through the crew. Mara whispered, "Sir, if either side reaches Earth first." Aric didn't let her finish. They won't. He turned toward the Harbinger. "If we unbind you, will you stand with us? Protect Earth, not dominate it." The creature tilted its head in a strangely human gesture. "Commander Hale, I offer no chains, no thrones, only truth. I serve those who choose courage over obedience." It extended its obsidian hand again. Then Aric turned to the crystalline fleet. "And if we refuse to step aside," their light dimmed, their silence sharp as broken glass. "Then Terra becomes neutralized before the Harbinger's influence corrupts it. It is the only path to galactic stability." Aric exhaled slowly, a cold dread threading into resolve. "So either way, you'd erase us." "Your survival is not the priority," the crystalline voice replied. Aric's voice hardened. "For us, it is." He didn't turn away as he issued the order. "Kiera, target the lattice ships. Full power." She hesitated only a heartbeat. "Aye, Commander." The Resolute roared alive, its cannons blazing brilliant arcs of energy. The first lattice ship shuddered, light fracturing like a dying nebula. At the same time, the Harbinger moved, no longer an observer but a storm unleashed. In a blur of obsidian fire, it shredded through the binding web still clinging to its form. Energy ripples exploded outward, cracking the void with soundless thunder. The crystalline fleet responded instantly, weapons blooming across their curved holes like flowers of pure white death. The battle erupted in a maelstrom of blinding radiance and brutal force. The Resolute dodged and weaved through torrents of alien fire, its hull screaming under the impact of each near miss. Aric barked commands, his voice steady as the ship trembled violently. "Hold formation," he shouted. "Protect the flanks." The Harbinger hurled itself at the nearest crystalline vessel, carving into its hull with claws burning like molten suns. Light spilled out in cascading waves as the ship cracked apart, scattering crystalline shards across space like dying stars. But the crystalline armada was vast. Too vast. "They're repositioning," Mara cried. "They're forming an encirclement pattern. We'll be crushed." Aric stared ahead, eyes narrowed. "Not if we change the battlefield." He slammed his hand against the console. "Helm, ramming trajectory, straight through their formation." The crew gasped. "Sir, we won't survive that," Kiera yelled. Aric's voice dropped to a whisper strong enough to move mountains. "Then we carve them open and trust the Harbinger to clear us a path." The Resolute thundered forward like a charging spear, its engines screaming at redline. The crystalline ships reacted too late. The bow plowed through an outer vessel, cracking it wide open in a burst of silver flame. The Harbinger lunged through the breach, its claws tearing apart the encirclement pattern before it could lock in place. The creature unleashed a roar, one that didn't echo through the air but vibrated straight into their bones, a call older than language itself. In that sound, Aric heard not destruction, but defiance. The crystalline fleet's formation crumbled, their lights flickered, their resonance dimmed into panic. "Commander," Mara shouted, "they're pulling back." The surviving ships retreated into the darkness of space, vanishing into streaks of light as they fled toward the far edges of the galaxy. The void fell quiet again, eerily, impossibly quiet. Aric felt the tension drain from his body, leaving exhaustion in its wake. Damage report. Severe, Mara said, voice shaking from relief. But we're alive. Outside the shattered remains of battle, the Harbinger hovered beside the Resolute, its obsidian form reflecting the glow of distant stars. It spoke with a gravity deeper than the void. Commander Hale, Terra has chosen its future. You have chosen to stand, not submit. That courage marks your species as worthy. Aric stepped forward, still wary, but resolute. What happens now? The Harbinger lifted its gaze toward the far-off stars, the direction the crystalline fleet had fled. They will return, it said, and not alone. The returning war has begun, whether you wished it or not, but you will not face it unprepared. Its 8 eyes glowed brighter, as if lit from within by the first sparks of a rising sun. I will show you the truth of your ancestors. I will teach you what they feared to know, and together, we will defend your world. A deep chill, mixed with fierce resolve, surged through Aric. Earth was no longer a small, fragile blue dot on the edge of a quiet arm of the galaxy. It was a target, a promise, and now, a battleground. The stars around the Resolute seemed to shift, as though listening, waiting. Aric lifted his chin, eyes burning with the fire of a man who had accepted the weight of an entire species. Then we start now, he said. The Harbinger nodded once, and the galaxy, even the oldest corners of it, felt something it had not felt in millennia. The rise of humanity.